All right, so we have a quorum. So let's call the meeting to order at 7:02. And we can't, the public hearing will start at 7:15. So we have a couple minutes to go through our minutes. There's a public comment period on the open meeting, but basically this meeting is about public comment. So I believe we should probably just hold that for the actual public comment period, which will start in 12 minutes. So why don't we go over the minutes, if that's okay with everyone? We have February 3rd and September 21st. So starting with the February 3rd minutes, does anyone have any comments?
I read them, Mr. Chairman. They seemed all right to me.
Anyone else who?
I did not read them. Yeah.
Okay. I do have just a quick comment. Catherine, on page 2, the second paragraph and the second sentence, the Open Space and Rec Committee is considering funding options to purchase land for open space, including but not limited to bonding. I would put partnering with Greenbelt, or a conservation, or purchasing a conservation restriction.
Okay, got it.
And otherwise, they look good.
Thank you.
I move we approve them as edited.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I need to roll. Bill, okay. Janet, Tom, you in favor? You're muted. You're still muted.
Yeah.
Leo's a yes.
Since I haven't
Aye.
read them, I feel I should.
Yeah, oh, you haven't read them. Would you like to read them?
Yeah, but I don't want to hold you guys up. So,
We've had them for a long time, so
I'm sorry about that. And I feel, if everybody else has looked at them, I'm sure they're fine.
you can trust us, Tom.
Yeah, I think I've learned to be able to trust you guys.
But we can't spend time reading minutes at the meetings
No,
themselves.
I totally agree. It's my fault. Yeah.
We can't start the public meeting for 10 more minutes. All right, so I will say those minutes have passed. Tom, if you'd like to read them, you've got 10 minutes. So
Trying to pull them up now, yeah.
let's move on to the September 21st minutes. These are shorter. I do have one comment. On the first page, under public comment, the sentence that starts with Mr. Waddell.
Yes.
Mr. Waddell noted the committee, and I'd like to, the committee expanded last year. We didn't really expand. That would be membership. I would say reached out to several groups about meeting with Wenham CPC. Groups contacted were the schools, Hamilton CPC, Greenbelt, Open Space and Rec Committee, etc.
Okay, got it.
Perfect. Anyone else?
And they look fine to me, Mr. Chairman.
I would agree.
Motion to approve
I'd like
as
to,
edited?
I'd like to move that we approve them as edited by Committee Man Waddell.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Tom?
Yeah, I think I should abstain still.
Okay. Those approved as edited as well. 7:07. So before we start the public meeting, I would like to apologize. I feel that our last meeting got off the rails, and I allowed that, and I apologize. We will try to stick more to our mandate and stay out of the political commentary. So I apologize to the members and the general public.
Okay, thank you.
And we still have 7 more minutes.
While we have a minute, Mr. Chairman, there was a little discussion last meeting about open space, and it was suggested that people who with open space might be approached, and the chairman mentioned that Mr. Saginaw disagreed with that. Am I correct?
So Natalie and I met with Stuart down in Boston, and we discussed a particular property, and also went through some of the history. So I learned some of the history through a longtime local native. And there was a dispute back when the house was built in the 1930s, I believe. And the fact that this dispute was still remembered just leads you into places that it's more comfortable for someone to talk to an organization like Greenbelt rather than the government come and say, hey, we like your land. So Stuart strongly suggested partnering with a Greenbelt, a trustees, a land trust, and let them handle the communications. And we're basically a source of funding. That's not to say that we shouldn't engage people, but just to be very careful as a member of a town committee when approaching people, because hackles can get raised when you hear the government's coming for your land.
You know,
So,
Mr. Chairman, you're absolutely right, and ordinary towns residents don't have authority. Okay, they don't have authority. The most that a resident could do is suggest to a fellow resident who might have property that might be an avenue to investigate. But I know we've lost properties in town where the owner of the property never even thought that the town might want his property, or that it might be advantageous to him in some way, whether it be tax advantage or some advantage or maybe recognition in the name of the parcel, or similar to Reynolds Farm. We call it Reynolds Farm, and Mr. Reynolds, God bless him, he's long gone, but the name lives on because of his donation. So the most, residents don't have authority, but the most they can do is and what they should do and encouraged to do is to suggest to landowners that in order to keep the character of the town, it might be nice to investigate the advantages of the town either buying or somehow acquiring your parcel of land. But if you have to do it through trustees, my understanding is that trustees don't have a lot of money to do this type of thing. So in the end, it has to be Wenham's money that does it.
So the Greenbelt just purchased they purchased with, donated money. They purchased the Green Meadow Farm in Hamilton, and they purchased the Sagamore Hill. So they don't have an unlimited source of money, but they have donations that they can generate, especially if there's a property of interest that they can rally around. I believe I want to say the property in Hamilton was $3.5 million, and they were able to raise that very quickly and purchase the property from the Pattons. The Stuart was more. I agree. If you know someone and you think it could be beneficial, we should absolutely talk to them. But we don't want to scare people away saying the government's coming from my land.
Let me ask this, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned Green Meadows Farm, and I don't know the situation. I heard the same thing that the trustees. But now, who has control of it? When the trustees buy it, does the town of Hamilton lose control? Does the
They
town
never
of
had
Hamilton Open
control.
Space Committee and the Conservation Commission and the administration in Hamilton lose control to the trustees?
Well, it's a greenbelt, so trustees is a different organization. But yes, it's a now greenbelt property. The signs are all over the property. I walked some of it the other day. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Vineyard Hill, gorgeous. And they do control, but I don't think the town really wants to control this land. I mean, even when we were talking about the Hamilton Wenham Land Trust and on Cedar, I think it's Cedar Street, transferring that property to Greenbelt, and I think it was decided they should probably own it, and we hold the restriction so that they maintain the property. But you want to get a partner who's in land conservation. That's their job, because they are the experts.
Right. I mean, I don't think there would be very many parcels that we could take over without some help from a nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true, Tom. We have money in open space, and there are grants, whether they're state grants or whether they're federal grants, to go after situations like that. Mm-hmm. I know that in Ipswich, they had the Raymond Farm up on between 133 and Argilla Road. It's 400 acres there, and between the neighbors pitching in, between the CPC money, between open space money, they went after grants, both federal and state. I understand, and they acquired the thing, and it was like $4 million. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And Ipswich also has a unique, well, not unique. They have a situation where they have an open bond for purchasing open space. They have a mechanism to act quickly.
Exactly, and they established it a long time ago, and they've acquired numerous spaces. If you go over the bridge onto from Highland Road onto Mill Road, there's a big parcel on the left there. They've acquired several parcels, including the Ted Raymond's farm.
It is now 7:16. So I suggest that we open the meeting to public comment. Jackie, do you have the mechanism to do so?
Yeah. Would you like to read the public hearing notice, Pat, or would you like me to read it just so we can formally open?
If you could read it, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I would be happy to. Let me just pull it up really quickly. One moment, please. Okay, so notice of a public hearing. The Wenham Community Preservation Committee will conduct a public hearing in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 5, Subsection B, Subsection 1, at the Wenham Town Hall, 138 Main Street at 7:15 p.m. on Wednesday, October 14th, 2020, via Zoom, for the purpose of a public informational hearing on the needs, possibilities, and resources of the town regarding community preservation, possibilities, and resources. Patrick Waddell, Chair, Community Preservation Committee, to be published in the Salem News Wednesday, September 30th and Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, which I do have proof of publishing for both of those dates. And then if you just wanted to vote to open the public hearing. I might have, Catherine Tinsley, did I just do that in the wrong order?
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
okay, yes, I'm sorry. Feel free to proceed.
So I move that we open the meeting, open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Do we have any members of the public, non-committee members that would like to address the committee?
And Pat, I'll just remind folks too that we do have the ability to utilize the chat function. If someone does not have a microphone capacity, they can always type in the chat and we can read aloud if need be.
Perfect.
But everyone don't rush all at once to do so.
We'll keep the public hearing open. We can open this up to CPC members. Are there any articles of interest that you'd like to address in the public hearing? All right, I'll go.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that we did last year was to start reaching out to other groups. In the previous 6 years or 5 years I had been on the committee, we never really had any outreach. And I thought it was very helpful. COVID shut us down, but I had spoken to the interim superintendent at the time about potentially meeting with our group. Hamilton's CPC, KP Law was still on the docket to have a joint meeting with Hamilton CPC with them. The Rec Department, Open Space and Rec, the Affordable Housing Trust, the Historic District Commission, all the areas of interest that we touch. And this is not to generate applications, but more just to get a feel for what's going on in the community and what could we be seeing in the near or distant future, so that we aren't just a reactive board. We actually work with the community to say, okay, the community has expressed interest in this project. How maybe we can start researching it, find out, what's the potential cost? What is it feasible? Does it fit within our mandate? So I would like to continue that. Greenbelt's one that I neglected to mention. Chris LaPointe is a great resource for us when we talk about bonding projects or partnering with them, outreach to the community. So I would like to continue that if the committee agrees. And one of the things we also talked about is instead of this just being a 2 or 3 or 4 month committee, maybe have in our off season, once town meeting has passed, maybe have a monthly meeting to check in and maybe get a presentation from one of those groups, or just to sit down and talk with them. And it doesn't have to be an hour-long session. It could be 15 minutes. Oh, this is what we have going on. Where do we fit with this? I'm just wondering, what people's thoughts are on making this a more engaged committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Leo.
There's been talk, over the years about reaching out to organizations and encouraging them to apply. Well, tell you the truth, as long as I've been on the committee, there hasn't been any shortage of applications. In fact, I feel bad because we don't have enough money to give everybody what they want. So there hasn't been any shortage of applications. The only shortage of applications that I've seen, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, the only shortage of applications I've seen is for what? Open space.
Open space.
Right. But so I don't think we have to reach out looking for applications. We get them.
Well,
If
that
we
would
get
be
a shortage, if we get a shortage one year, there'll be more money because there'll certainly be more people that looking for it the next year.
but that outreach can also be to the green belts, the trustees, the land trusts, and they would be the ones that are more in tune with potential parcels that may be of interest to us, because they're out there on these parcels all the time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I like that focus. I mean, in part because I'm on the open space committee, and I know that committee definitely wants to, have a meeting with CPC because we feel that would be, we would be working together on something most likely. So I think at least between those, those entities, that would be good. And we meet with Crystal Point. So, however, I guess what I want to say is, however we do it, I really do think, like, as Leo's saying, we probably would get enough applicants for historic preservation and affordable housing and perhaps recreation, playgrounds, but open space is the big elephant, really. And, I think the more we can do to prepare ourselves for that or reach out, the better. So I think the more times we talk to Greenbelt or any of these groups, the more we get a sense of what we need to do. Like, try to follow in Ipswich's footsteps and establish some kind of bonding mechanism. I think that would be crucial. So those are the kind of things, I would certainly agree with.
And open space is probably the category that contributes most to the character of the town. First impressions is lasting impressions when you drive in on 1A or when you drive in on Route 22 or from Topsfield Road. First impressions is lasting impressions.
So maybe it's worthwhile. Greenbelt's definitely one that I would love to bring in, and who knows when we're actually going to meet in person. But yeah. I could reach out to Chris. He's a friend of mine, and have him meet with us and talk about what we can do to maybe enhance our chances of landing a parcel of interest to us. And the open space and rec as well. I mean, I was on that committee, and I know there's a matrix of all the Chapter 61 properties.
Yeah.
And maybe they could lead us through that and say, here's what we have. And then I'd like to bring in the Affordable Housing Trust as well. I know that we've emptied out the coffers for affordable housing, but I think the Affordable Housing Trust would be valuable to meet with as well. We have actually we have two affordable housing projects going on right now. There's Maple Woods, and then there's the Habitat for Humanity. So maybe, and not even talk specifically about those projects, but about what they've found. They've held meetings with the town, the Affordable Housing Symposium, and discuss what is the town looking for. What are they looking for? What are the projects that they're excited about? Now, of course, if Maple Woods comes to fruition, we meet Chapter 40 or Chapter 40B. But still, what should we be? Where should we be focusing? As far as the bonding goes, that's a great suggestion. I know that CPC had Stuart Saginaw in previously to talk about bonding and mechanisms on how to bond, and maybe we could do that again as well, because the committee has turned over a fair bit. So that would be a decent topic.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just not to beleaguer this one, but when you drive in from Hamilton to Wenham on Route 1A, you come past, Donnie Costin's coffee shop, and what's the first thing you see in Wenham? We all take it for granted. But when you drive into Wenham from Hamilton, what's the first thing you see?
Angry Park.
225 Main?
The horse farm on the left.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Right.
Yeah.
Now that to me is it looks like Wenham, and that's not that land is not even in Chapter 61. So, in that land, a little bit of it is in probably in the commercial zone, at least the part that's close to Hamilton, and now. What do we do? Do we go to trustees and say, look, I'd like you to talk to the people who own the Prince Farm on 1A, or do we suggest it to Pansy Prince is gone, of course, but her husband's still around. And do we suggest it to them? Do we? Is there a mechanism? I don't think the town wants it for nothing. But we have
Oh, we do.
we have facilities and money to get it from CPC, and probably looking for grants. We must have a vehicle in town that goes after grants. I know some towns have town managers that are famous for getting grants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. And I do think that that the land trust would be the way to go. And I'd be surprised if someone hasn't contacted the family, but you never know. It's definitely worth asking the question, right? So that's something that Greenbelt, and we could look for other land trusts in the area that would be, this would fall within their purview. But that's a great parcel. That's a great parcel. So I've got the CPC Coalition on bonding, Greenbelt for the parcels of the area and how we could partner with them. Open Space and Rec, we could review their matrix with them and see what's of greatest interest to them. And Affordable Housing Trust, and get a feel for what they're looking for. And I think that would be that's only 4 groups, so we're not talking an exorbitant amount of meetings. So if okay with the group, I could reach out to the 4 of them and try to bring them in, monthly after the application process is over. Maybe bring them in monthly and have a symposium on what we should be looking at. What could we do better? Because to your point, Leo, open space has been not our strongest suit.
I think it's a wonderful idea, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
I agree. Yeah, and that no pressure if we do it, starting in the spring. So
Well, maybe we can get back together.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I'm gonna ask. Sorry.
This is Elizabeth. Since I'm so new to this committee, have properties been identified? Is there actually some choices to be made here of which properties that should be pursued?
So the Open Space and Rec Committee, which Tom, why don't you talk about the matrix?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have it in front of me. I was thinking of trying to pull it up, but basically we created, kind of a survey about the top parcels that, and kind of rank their value to the town or to preservation. And so that does give us, kind of way of evaluating what these properties would, would bring to the community. I think we'd all miss them if they got developed, for sure, and that would be obvious. But some have, wildlife features, or they would they're contiguous with, another preserved property, which that makes them, even more valuable, and especially more valuable to organizations like Greenbelt that try to preserve, wide swaths of, of green areas. So, so that does exist, and that would be a good thing to, for the Open Space Committee to discuss with CPC. So I don't recall offhand where that property that Leo just mentioned, where that fits in. But the known properties are on there.
So I presume these owners, they're aware of the interest, the town's interest?
I don't think they are. No, I don't think anyone's spoken to them directly. And, it's not like we get a lot of folks tuning into our meetings. So I think they're probably not really aware of it. I mean, we did, we sent out a survey, the Open Space Committee, when it was being formed, sent out a survey, and we got a lot of feedback. I mean, and, but that just also helped us evaluating the properties, and just sort of, more than evaluating the properties, just kind of giving us some guidance as to what people wanted from the Open Space Committee. So, sometimes it's things like, clarifying where the trails are. So we've spent some time on that. There are a lot of trails in Wenham people just don't even know about, where they can, experience nature. And, and there's there was some interest in access to the trails, where some might not have any parking or signage on the trails, so that we would know where they are. We did just post to the town website our new mapping of the trails. So that's something we have accomplished. But again, I don't even know how many people are aware of that. But so I tell you that is available on the website. So, was there anything else?
Mr. Chairman, not that I want to talk about properties all night, but when you come in from Topsfield on 97,
Absolutely.
and you cross the walking trail and start coming up the hill, that property on your left, you can know that developers are drooling over that property, okay? And if nobody approaches the person, and if somehow we don't work on it, it'll go the same way that the West property went, and others.
So that property owner gets a letter every year from Greenbelt saying, hey, would love to have a conversation, would love to have this as an active farm again. Because one of the things that Greenbelt is also doing is compiling a list of land poor farmers, people that want to farm, but they just can't afford land.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So they get a conservation restriction on the land, or purchase the land and then lease the farm to land poor farmers. And that farm in particular is of particular interest because of the buildings. So a lot of farmland won't have a farmhouse. It won't have a barn. So you're talking about a capital intensive project to get that to be productive land. If you have an existing farm with a farmhouse, with a barn, with storage, that becomes much more desirable to Greenbelt. And so they can bring in a farmer and say, plug and play, here you go, here's the land. One of the shortcomings of the Open Space and Rec Committee's matrix is, I believe it only looked at Chapter 61 properties. So either Chapter 61A or B. So the property that you discussed earlier down the butts of train tracks, if it's not Chapter 61, it's not going to make the list. So those are the other properties that we should also be looking at and saying,
Right.
Chapter 61. So for those that don't know, Chapter 61 basically cuts your tax rate to a quarter of our rate. You get a huge tax break for keeping your land as productive farmland or for recreation, golf courses, So there's a huge tax incentive there. But you do give up your development rights while it's under the chapter, and the town then gets right of first refusal on the sale of that property. But if it's not Chapter 61, it's not going to fall within the purview of the Open Space and Rec Committee, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Tom, has the Open Space Committee ever sent out proactively letters from the town's Open Space Committee to these particular property owners, just saying, we would have an interest if you would ever have an interest in a dialogue with us to maintain your land as open and free and et cetera? Has there ever been a proactive approach here?
Not that I know of.
No, not that I know of either, not yet. And again, that, we did, we've talked to Greenbelt too, so we were aware of this idea that for that one property that they should take the lead on it. And, I think that's maybe officially the way most of this should happen. I don't know. I mean, certainly I think I agree with Leo that, for people who are friends or acquaintances of the property owners, I think that's an excellent way to bring up the topic. But for the most part, I think, a nonprofit like Greenbelt making the approach is, just seems, much friendlier or more productive, right? Because even if they may be rebuffed too, but I think they would bring back some information that would, help the town know what to do if they want to make a direct approach.
Well, I used to work in fundraising, and one of the things donors always seem to say is they needed to be asked. They just need to be asked.
Yeah, I agree.
Step up, and you have to do a little dance with them. But I just think reaching out might, as a small community and a community group, maybe that's what they need. Just to let them know that there's other possibilities for that property.
Elizabeth, would you be comfortable potentially drafting a letter that could be used, or is it within our purview to? I think it is to draft a letter, and if we can get something that's in a form that's acceptable to the committee and to our lawyers, maybe we start approaching people, and we'll get best practices from other groups as well. What has worked and what hasn't worked, so maybe we can avoid some pitfalls. But
Well,
sounds great.
Ipswich, from what Leo is saying, perhaps Ipswich is probably a good first step. They seem to have figured this out.
They do have an open bond that really helps them, and so bonds are tough to get through town meeting, but it's definitely a potential. Ipswich can act very quickly, which we can't at this point. We can't. So
no, and speed is really important. Yeah.
So I'll add Ipswich to the groups that we want to talk to. The worst they can say is no.
Right. Well, the thing with Ipswich, it might be. Oh, I'm sorry. So that might be a good one for a joint meeting with Open Space. I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but they did come to speak with us at one point, but nothing really developed out of it. It was more like just exploratory. So maybe having both committees simultaneously would be good.
That we might have to wait to actually be in person for.
Yeah.
If we're talking Ipswich CPC, RP CPC, plus Open Space, just the Zoom meetings get a little crazy.
True. Yeah.
So, but I think it's a great idea. Those three groups, Ipswich could be very informative. And I can reach out and start talking to these groups, and anyone else can as well. To see,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that the committee's aware. Ipswich actually doesn't have a CPC, like in the traditional sense. You'd want to, I think, reach out to their open space committee that took the lead on that bonding project that went to their town meeting. The open space committee there is the one that took the lead on that project. They, I don't know if they don't currently have CPC on their website actually at all. And I don't remember, I'm an Ipswich resident and I don't think we vote on CPC at annual town meeting either. So, but I can look into it more and see if it's open space or if it's another.
Great. That'd be fantastic. I didn't realize you were an Ipswich resident.
That's even more encouraging that Ipswich, that everything they've done, they've been able to do it without CPC money.
That's what an open bond will do for you.
You know,
We have limited bond capacity at the moment, so we're still paying off the town hall.
yeah.
So yeah, I have a document for some reason, perhaps from that meeting we had, the history of the Ipswich bond. So it's, I guess it was instituted in 2000. So it's been a while.
Let's open this back up to see if any of the public wants to
Yeah.
join in. Anyone? This is usually how this meeting goes.
Yeah, never had a lot of participation.
Yeah. I think the pool might have generated the last comment. All right. Why don't we close the public hearing now? I'm gonna move that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So now just moving on to the other items. The next is, timeline for our applications. Always have to work backwards from town meeting. So May 1st is town meeting. Jackie, do you know when the warrant will close?
Yeah, I'm actually just pulling that up right now. I apologize, everyone. I usually have everything pulled up in advance, but I was at the flu clinic late tonight. So the warrant for 2021 right now is scheduled to close. It looks like sometime in March of 2021. We haven't finalized the date yet, but the school committee has to vote their budget by roughly, it looks like March 17th or so. So I would recommend that the CPC work to finalize as much as they can by the first week of March. So I would say maybe you could, typically we try to finish by the third week of February. I think the latest you could really go is the second week of March, just because February is that shorter month than March. So I would say mid-March is kind of like your end game of finalizing what you would like to vote and recommend to town meeting. If you're looking to do a similar schedule to how the CPC normally hears applications.
So let me throw out February 1st as our application deadline. Does that work? If we,
Chairman,
yes.
Mr. Chairman, if we have to finalize our decisions by the middle of March, it's going to take more than 6 weeks to hash it over. I think February 1st is the latest, if it has to be that late.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You know, that would be
January
kind of
15th, maybe January 15th would give us more time to hash things out.
Yeah, and it just gets past that, how early the deadline used to be, right? I mean, I think that's pretty comfortable, people to apply by the 15th.
You're saying January 15th?
That's a Wednesday, so you could make it Friday.
January 15th is a Friday.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong year.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I make one note that the January 15th is the Friday of Martin Luther King weekend?
Oh,
So I don't know if that's, typically the last 3 years we've done a Monday deadline.
yes.
But I would say, I think the only day I would recommend not doing is Friday, just because we close at 1.
That's
So, you know, it's nice to give people till 4 o'clock and then we close at 4:30.
Make it the day before.
Yeah,
Make it the 14th.
okay.
The 14th town hall is open late, is that correct?
No, Thursdays we're open till 4:30.
Open 4:30.
Which
So
which night's open late?
Tuesday evenings.
Let's
So we
make
could
it
do,
Let's make it the 12th.
and do you want to set a time? Like we're open till 7 on Tuesdays, so we could say till 6. Or we could do it earlier in the day. It's up to.
I think Tuesday the 12th, right up until closing, it is the deadline for applications.
Well, we just don't want to run into a situation where someone gets there 2 minutes late, doors are closed. If we say 6 o'clock, then we have a little wiggle room.
Oh, you could split it and make it 6:30, right?
If we say 6 o'clock, we shouldn't accept an application at 6:01.
No, I'm going to disagree with you there. So we have become known around town as a very unfriendly group with hard deadlines. I remember First Church came in the day after, and the door was absolutely closed. But Harbor Light came in last year very late, or no, 2 years ago, very late, and was allowed to submit an application. I don't think that we should be so fixed on a time and a date where community members, we're supposed to be open to the community. So if someone comes in with this great idea, I think we should hear it. As long as we're not pushing the
Let's
board.
make the deadline the 12th and accept them right up until closing on the day before Martin Luther King Day, on the 14th.
So that's the unofficial deadline?
Yes.
The official's on the 12th?
Deadline the 12th, the unofficial deadline the 14th.
I'm fine with it. I just want to make sure that if we go to the 12th, let's put it at 6 o'clock, just so people kind of, we don't want a town hall employees having to wait past the time because someone calls and, oh, I'm on my way. So let's make it 6 o'clock so that we're aware of our town hall employees and that they want to get home too. So how does the 12th at 6 p.m.?
That sounds good to me.
Yep.
Right, but with the understanding that if someone called and said, you know, I got a flat tire or something, they could even come.
Absolutely.
Do we have a motion?
I'm so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
So January 12th, 6 p.m. Go for a vote. Aye.
Aye.
Elizabeth, are you raising your hand?
Pat, if you could try to do like a roll call vote, like Pat, I, Tom, I, etc.
I'll go by
Just
order on the
for
screen.
the minutes. Thank
Yep.
you.
Janet?
I have a, Patrick, excuse me.
Yes.
Can you just identify where they have to be delivered to? Are you delivering them to the town administrator's office or Jackie's office or where?
Where do they usually go to the town clerk or where do they usually go?
Typically we've had it as the town administrator's office from prior years. It typically comes to me. And the nice thing in the permitting office is that I have the time and date stamp that I can use, which I've been doing the last couple of years. I don't know if people feel strongly about that or not, having the time and date stamp on it.
It's good. So just to clarify the motion, it is our deadline is going to be January 12th,
February
2021.
12th? Do you mean February? I'm sorry.
No,
No,
they said
Joe,
January.
January 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
January-
Wow, I was in the wrong month. Someone was in the wrong year, and I'm in the wrong month.
which, yeah, but you
What was
originally
it?
were in the right month because you knew it was Martin Luther King Day.
There you go.
So the deadline will be January 12th at 6 p.m. to be delivered to the permitting office at Wenham Town Hall. All in favor? Janet?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
I,
Bill?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Leo?
Aye.
Pat Waddell's an aye as well. I don't think there's any more comfort. Good. So that'll be our deadline. I lost my agenda. Staff report. Jackie, what do you got?
So just a couple of quick things. I did pay a CPC invoice this week for the public hearing notice for the Salem News for this public hearing that we've just completed. I'm also very excited to report I've been working with Kristen Noon at the Wenham Museum. They are circling closer to completion dates for the Wenham Conant collection. So we'll be paying an invoice to them. I just need to see some proof of work before we send the check, but I did process it yesterday with the finance office's AP warrant. So once we see like proof of work completed, we'll be able to mail that check to the vendor that the Wenham Museum has been working with. Otherwise, I will be spending the next couple of weeks for CPC. I will get the website updated. I will provide some dates and calendars for January, February, March as we proceed with the select board and the FinCom close to the May town meeting. So we'll get some schedules out to folks. It would be helpful to get a sense of what night of the week folks will prefer for future meetings. Every year it kind of changes. It seems like Mondays and Thursdays were a while, but now we're on a Wednesday tonight. So if folks could send me, your preferred night of the week or two, or even if you're someone like, it's definitely not going to be Mondays or something, just send that to me by email over the next couple of weeks so we can get a schedule in place at that time. The other thing that I wanted to speak to the committee about tonight, due to you'll be speaking to, and you've already voted on the due date for this year. And I wanted to see if folks, there's nothing I can tell that the bylaw requires 10 copies of the application. And I wondered if the CPC would vote to allow folks to just submit one copy of the application, and then we'll make a scanned PDF that we'll send to all the committee members as we do. I find that most members are not picking up their hard copies, so I don't know if you're looking at them or if they're just not interesting to have them by hard copy. You just are all reading them electronically. If folks are wanting a hard copy, we can still ask for a number. I just think 10 is a lot and not many of them are getting utilized. So I'd like to reduce that if possible.
I agree with you, Jackie. I mean, if I need something printed, I usually just print it here. So
It's all right. It's all right with me too.
That does make it easier.
I think it's a great idea. Plus, it's much more environmentally friendly.
yeah, Jack, I agree. I prefer electronic.
So do we need a motion on that, or we can just say one copy is fine?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Jackie, do we need a motion, or can we just say?
I think because Leo has said so moved, he's put a motion on the floor, so you could seek a second and then call for a vote if you received one.
Sure.
I'll
Second, anyone?
I'll second.
Bill seconded. Janet?
Yes. Yay.
Elizabeth?
I, yes.
Good. Bill?
Yay, yes.
Tom?
Yeah.
Leo?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So one copy is fine.
That's great. Thank you. And then the only other thing that I had is that I'm going to update the website. If there's folks that have anything that they want to include on the CPC website, or you have ideas, we're really looking at updating the entire town website to be more informative and user-friendly. So right now we really just have the CPC's mission and who is on the CPC on the website. So if there's anything, and we also do link to the Community Preservation Coalition as well as the actual text of the statute. So if there's anything else that folks feel like would be helpful to add, or questions that you get as committee members from the public, like a frequently asked questions type section that you think would be helpful, if there's a question you're answering from the public all the time, we're just looking and working with all of our boards and committees to just make the website a really helpful tool for residents, and it's something that's very ongoing. So if there's something you want to see on the CPC website, something that we could be doing differently, we're happy to make that happen. And if you want to take a look and maybe at another future meeting, we can hear suggestions, or you can email me directly, just so that we can, keep pace with the other boards and committees that are updating their sections, as we try to become more and more mobile friendly and online friendly, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we should put Leo's address on there and invitation for Wednesday lunch. Standing invitation.
Sounds good.
Excellent. So I guess the next thing would be our next meeting. So we've got nothing really outstanding now. We're in
Accept
just
I
the
suppose
applications.
we need to meet to accept applications.
Do we want to potentially have a meeting if I can get one of these groups to meet with us while we have downtime until the applications are due? Do we want to try to get together with a Greenbelt or the CPC Coalition or Affordable Housing Trust or someone?
If you want to work it, I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Pat.
Yeah. I mean, there's, up until Thanksgiving, there's a good time to meet.
Okay, good. And then we also have, we had a KP Law session scheduled, which got COVIDed. That's not back on the calendar, is it, Jackie?
No, unfortunately, the confluence of events with the special town meeting and the flu clinics have been taking up a lot of my time, but I'm hopeful. Do folks feel like November would be a good time to get that on the books with KP? I feel like December starts to encroach for people in terms of personal plans, and I don't know with Zoom. We'll do this training on Zoom either way. I don't know if with things being on Zoom, December, like the first 2 weeks of December seems like a good time, or when do folks feel like they wouldn't mind sitting through that CPC seminar? When do you think would be convenient for you all? I want to get as many folks as we can.
How time consuming is it, Jackie?
I would expect it to be less than an hour and a half. I think maybe an hour. And I won't lie, I wouldn't want to do longer than an hour, because I think I want you to have time to ask questions. I don't want it to be just a lecture. I think, maybe a 20-minute lecture and then question and answer for maybe 30 or 40 minutes at the max.
Well, speaking for myself, if it's going to be a Zoom meeting, any week up until the second week in December probably can work for me. Again, it's less intrusive and less of a, it's less of a challenge if it's a Zoom meeting. So
yeah.
I would be a proponent of anything up until the second week and including the second week of December.
I would agree.
Agree.
I must say that the first 2 weeks in December are going to be very difficult for me because I'm teaching at the college. It's final exams.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
It's not that I can't do it. So if everyone else can do it, then it's not a problem. I'll figure it out. I'm assuming it will be at night, evening.
Correct.
Okay. I'll figure it out. If everyone else, if that's good for everyone else, I can work around that.
I will say, Jana, I think ideally, if I can get something during the week of the teens of November, that's what I'm currently, because I believe Thanksgiving's the 26th this year.
Yeah.
It is.
So my intention would be to do the teens of November if we can. But then I think the latest I think KP even would be interested is maybe the week of the 30th to the 4th. Is that like a really bad week? I've been out of that world for a little while, so I
No,
don't remember.
no, that's a perfectly, either of those is a perfectly fine week. When you were
Okay.
saying teens, I was thinking like the week of December 15th, which is like, just shoot me. It's so busy. That's fine.
Yeah,
with me.
no. I think we all want to be out of that time period. I think from
Perfect.
mid-December on, no, I think I'm going to try for November as much as I can, but at worst case scenario by December 3rd.
That'd be perfect. No problem.
And just for folks to know too, I actually will be away the week of Thanksgiving. There will be coverage in the office. I don't expect a lot of CPC business at that time, but the week of Thanksgiving, I am away for that entire week. So just so everybody knows.
Okay.
So our next official meeting, not KP Law, not with one of these groups, should probably be just after the 12th. So we can pick up the applications and review them.
Right. So, yeah.
Thursday the 14th, tentatively.
But what if we
Which
get some late ones?
Patrick, which month are we talking here?
This would be January.
Oh, January. Okay, great.
Yep. So sorry, the applications are due January 12th, which is
Right.
Tuesday. If we do the 14th.
If I may, the 14th is the standing meeting of the planning board, so we would automatically not have Peter Clay from the planning board available just that evening.
Yeah.
What about, especially if we said we're going to have this grace period, something could come in possibly on the 14th, right?
Yep.
Could we?
We have a grace period, Tom, from the
Well, that's what I mean. So in other words,
12th to the 14th.
right. So but what I'm saying is having the meeting on the 14th might be a little soon.
Oh, no, that would be, the 14th is what, a Thursday?
Yeah.
I think the following week is
Yeah,
probably-
that sounds good. Yeah. So the following 18th to the 22nd. Jackie, do you have a particularly good day that week?
I actually will not be available on January 18th. I will be observing Martin Luther King Day, and I hope everyone else will be too.
Let's go towards the tail end of that week.
Yeah, I would recommend typically Tuesdays are select board nights,
Okay.
and Wednesdays that time of year quickly become FinCom school committee for the general public. So I would recommend Thursday the 21st at this point, not having much more to go off of than their usual standing nights. I think the 21st would be the most likely that you'd see availability for everybody from not wanting to attend those other meetings.
Okay.
Unless we all agree on the 14th.
I think the 21st makes sense.
Fine with
It
me.
also gives folks, I'll get them out on the 12th as soon as I receive them, because I'll scan them that night, but that it also adds like a weekend of review time for folks to be able to read them all. I don't know if that is helpful.
I think it is, because then we can start scheduling the reviews. We can bundle them to make sure we don't have, I don't know what's out there this year. I haven't heard of anything. But we can, if we get applications that are going to take more time, we make sure we don't get two of those together.
Right.
Yep.
So 21st would be good. Yeah, that'll give us some review time.
May I ask, do folks like the 7 o'clock start? Would folks, we have some boards that start as early as 6:30 and some that start as late as 7:30. Does 7 o'clock feel right for everybody, or do you feel like earlier or later would be better?
7's fine for me.
Good for me.
Yep.
Yeah. I wouldn't like it to be earlier would be a problem, I think. So
Earlier would be a problem, Tom?
yeah, I think so.
So let's just stick with 7.
That's good with me.
Okay. So 21st, 7 p.m. is the next scheduled meeting. And then depending on KP Law and any other groups, maybe we'll get something in the interim.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that meeting?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I'll add it to the website, and I will, I don't know I don't want to like be a doomsayer, but we might still be on Zoom at that point. I have no way of knowing, but I'll send out a calendar invite either way so everybody can add it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if you don't have any new business, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would. I just want to mention to people, I'm not very good about contacting the entire group. I'm very aware of the open meeting law, so I typically won't send out agendas. I won't be contacting the entire group. The agendas will always be on the website 48 hours prior to any meetings. Meeting notifications typically come from Jackie, but it's very rare you will see an email from me to the entire group. But I would entertain a motion, Leo.
So
Second.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Aye.
Elizabeth, we can't see you.
Aye. We're
Ah,
out.
perfect.
Must be now.
All right, folks.
Good
Have
night.
a good night.
Good night, folks.
good
Good night, all.
Night. Hang in there to the election.
Yeah.
Good night.
See you on Saturday.